If you're tired of overthinking, reacting to everything, and losing your peace over things that should not have so much power over you, this video is for you. If every criticism tears you down, every silence throws you off, every frustration knocks you out of balance, and every uncertainty turns into a storm inside your head, then maybe the problem is not only what happens to you. Maybe the problem is that no one ever taught you how to govern yourself. And that is exactly where Stoicism comes in. But slow down, because maybe you have heard this word many times and still never truly understood what it means. Maybe you know Stoicism through scattered quotes, through short clips, through quick videos, through Marcus Aurelius quotes, through that shallow idea that being stoic means not caring about anything, being cold, enduring everything in silence, or turning into stone. But that is not Stoicism. And today I want to show you that the right way, because this video marks the beginning of a brand new series here on the channel. A series that will be called exactly this: What is Stoicism? And the purpose of this series is simple, but very important: to stop treating Stoicism as a beautiful quote and start treating it as a structure for life. Here, we are not going to use this philosophy as decoration. We are going to use it as a tool, as a lynx, as ground, as a real way to think better, feel better, react better, and live with more steadiness in a world that almost never cooperates with you. So today, I want to give you a clear, living, and deep introduction to what Stoicism is, without a cold lecture, without distant language, without a school summary, without making it sound beautiful, but useless. The idea is that by the end of this video, you will not just understand Stoicism. The idea is that you will feel why it remains so necessary for modern life. And let me tell you something now. Throughout this video, you are going to see why Stoicism is not a philosophy for looking strong. It is a philosophy for no longer being so easily knocked down from the inside. Before we continue, write this in the comments: I want to understand Stoicism for real. Write it, because many people consume content about Stoicism, but very few are truly willing to build a foundation that can change their lives. When people hear the word philosophy, a lot of things come to mind. Something distant, abstract, intellectual, beautiful, maybe, but not very useful in real life. Not very useful when anxiety comes, when fear tightens, when other people's opinions weigh on you, when loss arrives, when a relationship falls apart, when the future feels frightening, when the mind becomes chaos, when life goes off plan, and Stoicism moves in the exact opposite direction. It was not born to sound sophisticated. It was born to be useful. The Stoics were not only trying to answer grand questions about the universe, existence, or metaphysics, they were also trying to answer very human, very urgent, very living questions. How do you deal with pain without destroying yourself? How do you stop being a slave to your own emotions? How do you endure losses without losing your dignity? How do you stop depending on other people's approval in order to feel whole? How do you remain steady when life spins out of control? Do you see the difference? Stoicism is not a philosophy to memorize. It is a philosophy to use. Maybe the simplest way to begin understanding it is this: Stoicism is a philosophy of inner government, not control over the world, government over yourself. And that difference changes everything, because most people spend their entire lives trying to control the outside, control what others think, control how they are seen, control results, control timing, control the future, control other people's reactions, control the way others perceive them, control circumstances that were never completely in their hands to begin with. And because the world does not obey, the mind goes to war. Stoicism appears and says something very unsettling, but very freeing. You are trying to govern the wrong place. The Stoic focus is not to dominate life. It is not to be dominated by everything life does. Keep that sentence, because it is at the center of everything we are going to build in this series. Not dominating life, but not being dominated by everything life does. And maybe here, one first illusion already falls apart. Many people think Stoicism is coldness, that it is emotional repression, that it is enduring everything in silence, that it is looking unshakable, that it is not feeling. But no, Stoicism is not becoming stone. The Stoic is not someone who does not feel. The Stoic is someone who learns not to blindly obey everything they feel. That is very different. He feels fear, but does not kneel before fear. He feels anger, but does not hand his whole mind over to anger. He feels sadness, but does not turn sadness into identity. He feels pain, but does not let pain become a tyrant. Stoicism does not dehumanize you, it organizes you. And maybe that is exactly why this philosophy remains so alive after more than 2,000 years. Because the world changed. Technology changed, distractions changed, comparison changed. The speed of life changed, the way people relate changed, pressure changed, noise increased. But the human heart still faces very similar conflicts. Fear still exists. Attachment still exists. Anxiety still exists. Vanity still exists. Pride still exists. Impulsiveness still exists. The need for approval still exists. The suffering of trying to control what does not depend on us still exists. The setting changed, but the inner battle remains, and Stoicism speaks directly to that battle. Now, notice something important. The great names of Stoicism did not come from easy lives. They were not men protected from reality. They were not people writing about peace from an artificially comfortable place. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. Epictetus was born a slave. Seneca lived among wealth, power, persecution, exile, and constant threat. Completely different lives, completely different destinies, completely different paths. But all of them, deep down, were dealing with the same question. How do I remain whole when life does not do what I want? That question is more current than ever, because so much human suffering intensifies exactly there, in the collision between desire and reality. You wanted something to last. It did not. You wanted someone to understand. They did not. You wanted the result to come quickly. It did not. You wanted fear to go away. It stayed. You wanted life to obey your rhythm. It did not. You wanted the past to be different. But it already happened. And here enters one of the most important ideas in Stoicism. Maybe the most famous, maybe the most transformative, but also one of the most misunderstood: the distinction between what depends on us and what does not. This idea sounds simple, but when it truly enters life, it changes the structure of the mind. Because while you spend energy trying to control what does not depend on you, you lose strength exactly in the only region where power still exists. You do not control everything that happens, but you do control your response. You do not control other people's opinions, but you do control how much you bend before them. You do not control timing, but you do control how you move through it. You do not control every loss, but you do control the kind of person you continue being after them. You do not control the past, but you do control whether you continue living emotionally on your knees before it. That is not passivity. That is lucidity. And here it is, worth correcting another common mistake. Some people think Stoicism is resignation without action, that it is an elegant way of giving up, that it is accepting everything apathetically, that it is wanting nothing, that it is living detached from everything so as not to suffer. But no, Stoicism does not teach you to give up action. It teaches you to act without inner slavery. You keep trying. You keep building. You keep fighting for what you believe is just. You keep doing your part. You keep seeking to improve. You keep moving, but without turning results into identity, without turning frustration into collapse, without turning loss into inner destruction, without turning the world into a tyrant over your peace. And maybe that is what makes this philosophy so powerful. It does not teach you to live less. It teaches you to live with less servitude. That is priceless. Because many people today think they are living intensely, when in truth, they are only being dragged around, dragged by anger, by anxiety, by neediness, by fear, by comparison, by the need for approval, by resentment, by impulsiveness. The Stoic does not eliminate emotion. He puts emotion in its proper place. He understands that feeling is human, but he also understands that living in service to every emotion as though it were a sacred command is a form of slavery. And notice how directly this speaks to our time. We live in an age that stimulates reaction all the time. React to the comment, react to the post, react to the criticism, react to the comparison, react to the silence, react to the delay, react to fear, react to the algorithm, react to other people's opinions, react to the noise of the world. The result: a tired mind, an agitated soul, an emotionally fragmented life, a constant feeling of being pulled away from yourself. Stoicism appears as an antidote to this. It says, pause, observe, distinguish, filter, take responsibility, return to the center. Do not hand over the throne of your mind to everything that touches you. Keep that sentence too. Do not hand over the throne of your mind to everything that touches you, because life will keep touching you. People will keep disappointing you. Time will keep frustrating you. The future will keep being uncertain. The body will keep aging. Losses will keep existing. Stoicism does not promise a life without pain. It promises something more honest and more noble: a more dignified way to move through pain. And that already separates this philosophy from much of what is sold today as personal development. Because a great deal of modern promise revolves around performance. Look strong, look confident, look immune, look unbeatable, look above everything. Stoicism does not want to teach you how to look. It wants to teach you how to be. And at the center of all this is character. For the Stoics, character was not reputation, not image, not applause, not prestige. It was inner structure. It was who you continue being when no one is watching, when there is no immediate reward, when pain tightens, when fear grows, when the ego is wounded, when life becomes confusing, when you have every reason to sink lower, but choose not to. That changes the whole goal of life. If your main goal is to look strong, you build a mosque. If your main goal is to be whole, you build substance. And Stoicism always preferred substance. Now maybe you are thinking, all of this makes sense, but what is the core of this philosophy? If I had to answer simply, I would say this. Stoicism is the art of living according to reason, virtue, and reality. Reason, because impulse cannot rule everything. Virtue, because life cannot be guided only by pleasure, convenience, or immediate relief. Reality, because suffering demands the maturity to look at the world as it is, not only as your neediness wishes it were. Reason, virtue, reality. These three words support much of the Stoic spirit. When you are irritated, Stoicism asks, is this being guided by reason or impulse? When you are suffering, it asks, are you seeing reality? Or are you being dragged around by an exaggerated story? When you are facing a difficult choice, it asks, what is more convenient? Or what is more dignified? When the world does not cooperate, it asks, are you trying to control what does not depend on you? Do you see how this philosophy always brings you back inward, always calls you back to your part, always confronts you with responsibility? For some people, that may seem harsh, but in truth, it is liberating, because while you believe your life only improves when the world cooperates, you remain powerless. But when you understand that there is an essential part that still depends on you, something begins to reorganize inside. That is where Stoicism stops being a beautiful idea and starts becoming ground. But here I need to correct one more distortion, maybe one of the most important for anyone arriving now. Stoicism is not the denial of pain. The Stoics were not beings without fear, grief, affection, weakness, or difficult nights. They were human. They felt, they suffered, they lost, they feared, they were shaken. The difference is that they tried not to turn pain into a tyrant. That point matters a lot, because maybe you came to know Stoicism through shallow content. That sounds like this. Do not care about anything. Do not show emotion. Be cold. Endure everything. Do not feel that is not mature Stoicism. That is caricature. True Stoicism does not dehumanize you. It organizes you. It does not tell you to suffocate pain. It teaches you not to serve pain. It does not say sadness is weakness. It says sadness cannot hijack the government of your mind. It does not say loving is a mistake. It says blind attachment weakens. It does not say you should become insensitive. It says sensitivity without an axis becomes vulnerability to everything. And maybe that is exactly why this series matters. Because from now on, I do not want to just hand you good quotes about Stoicism. I want to build with you a living, practical, and deep understanding. What the Stoics understood about inner peace, about self-control, about anxiety, about emotion, about suffering, about discipline, about other people's opinions, about ego, about adversity, about silent strength, about inner freedom. And little by little, you are going to realize something. Stoicism is not just an interesting topic. It is a lens for reorganizing life. Maybe you are already feeling that now. Because even in an introduction, this philosophy already begins dismantling certain illusions that exhaust the soul. The illusion that you need to control everything. The illusion that reacting quickly is strength. The illusion that approval is peace. The illusion that feeling intensely is the same as feeling truthfully. The illusion that outer chaos justifies inner chaos. The illusion that you are defined by the worst moment of your life. Stoicism dismantles those illusions, and in doing so, it opens space for something rare, clarity. And clarity is one of the deepest forms of relief, because there are sufferings that do not disappear all at once, but they lose weight when you finally understand what is happening inside you. Maybe that is why so many people find in this philosophy not only knowledge, but reunion. Reunion with responsibility, with sobriety, with center, with maturity, with possible peace with a strength that does not need to be performed. So if I had to leave you with a living, human, and memorable definition of Stoicism in this first video of the series, I would say this: Stoicism is the art of remaining master of yourself in a world that does not always cooperate with you. Keep that sentence, because it summarizes much of what we are going to deepen here on the channel. It is not about dominating life. It is about not being dominated by everything life does. It is not about eliminating pain. It is about moving through it without losing yourself. It is not about seeming unshakable. It is about building an inner foundation that does not collapse with every blow. It is not about becoming stone. It is about feeling with awareness, acting with virtue, and living with more lucidity. And maybe today that is more necessary than ever. The world is full of excess. Excess stimulation, excess opinion, excess noise, excess comparison, excess reaction, excess hurry. But there are still very few places that teach presence, center, character, and peace with depth. That is what I want to build with this series. Not a sequence of videos for you to consume quickly and forget, but a path to understand, apply, and mature. So this video is the beginning of a brand new series on the channel, the beginning of a foundation, the beginning of an inner vocabulary, the beginning of a more lucid way of looking at your own life. And now let me show you what the next natural step is, because understanding what Stoicism is matters. But right after that, the most urgent need for many people is something else: recovering inner peace. That is why the next recommended video is 10 Stoic lessons to recover your inner peace. And I would say it is the perfect continuation of this video, because if today we began with the foundation, in the next video we are going to turn that foundation into real application. We are going to talk about what steals your peace, about what pulls you away from your own center, about what the Stoics understood about serenity, and about how to begin breathing inwardly again with more clarity and less servitude to chaos. So keep this in mind. If this video gave you direction, the next one will give you tools. If this beginning made sense to you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments what struck you most in this first vision of Stoicism. And when you finish, go straight to the next video in the series. Because understanding Stoicism is valuable, but beginning to apply it to your inner peace may be the point where something truly starts to change inside you.